I believe we're live and that the speaker is going. So just so you guys know.
Welcome back, everybody. Good morning.
It's like, I saw you guys. I think that we have some language we're sending over for you guys to look at. I know you guys were gonna write up some too.
Oh, I was not aware that we were supposed to, I thought we were just,
I think we had just talked about trying to
okay.
put something together.
We got something we'll share. Okay, that way you guys can look at it.
And so I'm gonna type that up and
Send it
to
to
email. It'll be easier that way. My handwriting's a trip.
You wanna be able to read that. Before we get started here, I noticed that, last night at like, my brain woke up, I said 4 a.m. And that, on the notice, the district's notice letter, the first part talked about compensation for discussion about the extra duty days worked by counselors and adding another tier to the current mentor stipend structure, but you guys did not talk about that last night.
Maybe I'm working on it.
So I think, yeah, when it comes to the counselor's pay, I think that our thoughts on that were right now, if it's the 8% of their total contract for that time that they're working. And I think we just wanted to review that amount, because of how much it is to determine if we still feel like that's feasible.
That's okay. I just wanted to bring it to your attention because I was like, oh, wait, I think we missed this. That's
And what's the other things?
next year. We don't have to talk about that right now if you guys wanna get back to that. I just
I'm
was,
dropping it in the drive.
okay, it's okay. I was just noticing that and wanted to, like I said, verify and make sure I didn't have some misunderstandings. It says we're not live. Let me check. It might be-
If you should have that, very well. So,
Thank you.
Have you, and we didn't notice, you put this in the request for information, it's just something that had the conversation brought up. With regard to the new cell phone ban, have you calculated what the costs of implementation of that would be for the district?
So yesterday, there was, information came out from KSB. We have had minimal discussions about, what it's gonna look like and try to be as least restrictive and least disruptive to the overall classroom environment, to what we currently do, because we already have a cell phone policy. We're gonna try to make that work. But because we haven't seen anything from KSB yet, we haven't even talked about any specifics. So, our plan is to not make it a huge disruption to the classroom and the building environment. So,
And what are your people say louder and on that? It's a shame that it wasn't as effective,
Yeah,
but, you know, when you're talking to a brick wall, it's a hard job.
Yeah, it is.
and, I have to say that, I appreciate hearing your people's updates too. I mean, we get it from ours, but I also like,
Yeah, they do a great job, they really do, and they've appreciated the partnership with KNA too. It's all hands on deck most of the time. We may not be able to agree on everything, but on the things that we can, it's nice to be able to partner.
Okay, so I just sent the language from my, charter review on Article 27.
And if we see grammatical errors or whatever, that was the magic number.
No worries, 30 years ago.
only thing, it looks a little duplicative. There's the new certified employee attendance was already in there, and then I think maybe we just moved it up.
So, as I sent it out, here, so the first part is, there's two paragraphs. The first paragraph is the existing language, the second one is the one with the edit.
So after the red on the second paragraph, like the amended one, after the red in black, we have the certified employee attendance at such organization meetings will be compulsory unless excused. It's also up above in the red.
It doesn't, so, yes, and are you talking about where it says article number 30 in the first paragraph and then article 30 new?
Okay.
Oh,
During the
okay, I
first-
see what you're saying. Yeah, you're right. So it shouldn't be in both places.
Right, I think it probably makes more sense where it's at in the red. But I'm not married to where it's at, I just thought having that do.
Yeah, I'm not sure why I wrote that in there twice, but yeah, you're right.
I'm assuming you were wanting to move it, would be my guess, and then just forgot to delete it. I've done that many times.
No, I think we.
Or keep it at the end, it makes sense.
But I think the reasoning that we left it in both places.
No.
No?
No, what she's talking about, if you look on my screen right here,
Oh.
that and that are the
Oh,
same.
never mind.
And so I just typed it twice for some free reading.
Okay.
Do you want to remove it from the last, or should we make it?
And I actually wrote it twice in my notes, that's why.
Okay.
So, yeah, and I'm not married to it either, it's wherever it makes sense collectively.
I personally think where you have it in the red makes more sense with the way the language is now, because I feel like that should the Kansas legislature, KSEE, that to me is kind of the exception where everything else that's the rule is, but
I wouldn't disagree with that, anybody else?
Yeah. We're good with striking through that last sentence.
I wrote it
Yeah. I thought she was on this for a second.
I know yesterday when we talked about it, we don't hear that said KSD or in Kansas legislature, but I thought it makes sense to also put KSD. They every once in a while like their own independence too.
that looks good, I appreciate your work on that.
So the tentative language as it is without that last sentence.
G on the letter, so that first piece under compensation where we had discussed the rate of pay for the extra days for the counselors. So right now, when you do the math on that, so it's 10 extra days. And right now, how much they're getting paid is 8% of their total salary, which in day pay wise comes out to 14 days worth of pay instead of 10. So we wanted to review that.
Or you wanting to decrease the pay?
I don't think we have to decrease the pay, but I think if we could get, we could keep we want the number of days for the amount of pay that they're getting. So the number of duty days would increase.
So I think the idea is to align it with the language of additional days, so that would be that level 1 that we looked at yesterday, so that same article we were just adjusting, but with, or not the same article we were just adjusting. The section E of the special, pay. For the special salary information, subsection E, but this would be the level one, because this would be additional days. So 10 additional days of the daily rate, as opposed to currently 10 of them was as a supplemental. Is that right, or is it a completely different?
So it's in the negotiated agreement.
So your special salary index, which is pretty much your supplemental.
So it just has it listed there for the 10 additional days, and it just says 8%. So I think that what we were asking for was if we continue to pay that 8% amount, that it matched the number of days that they're working. So it could still be the same rate of pay, but for the number of days instead of just 8% for 10 days. Why can you not say this in a way?
I think too, we have several other positions throughout that are 10 days, but the different calculations. It's trying to get that consistency across the board. And I believe that was 80%. I think it was going to get just stuck in there a long time ago.
So instead of paying the 8%, is it aggregated?
You know, and I don't know if anybody has the institutional memory to necessarily know this. And I know a couple of the other districts, the counselors for their extra work, they are at a higher rate of pay because it's harder to find counselors. Is it possible that that's the reason why that is a higher amount? I've said that a long time. It's been there before. Principal all there for 8 or 9, so I don't think anybody's gonna have that.
Which one? This is the counselor's page? Okay.
On that, we would like to get more information and find out what it is, how frequent it is, and how the district where the counselor does have a higher rate. Obviously, we don't want to create a situation where that is a high, and as HR, maybe you can shine a little light on it. Do you have more difficulty hiring counselors and counselors in this district than say the three positions?
You know, I would really say that we don't. They're kind of highly sought after, and I'm feel free to.
I would just say too that the counseling position itself is very valuable, and it's changed a little bit like everybody. And so I know some districts are hiring social workers. Sometimes in lieu of a counselor, some are hiring both. We've been fortunate, I think. Anybody we hired as a social worker went on and finished their counseling at the same time. So I don't anticipate we'll have issues filling counselor, but with time, how long it'll last.
Okay, so yeah, at this point, we just want to look into that a little bit more, and then,
And if we get more information, we'll obviously have some.
We'll try to find some as well on.
It was really just an idea. I think because we don't have that, it just seems inconsistent.
Right, and
So
I'm
trying to
not-
get those consistencies.
I'm not to love 48 hours. I don't want to create a position where we end up angering your existing staff and they end up leaving, or making it more difficult for you to hire those positions back in.
Appreciate that. And so, being their compensation, that mentor piece, so we wanted to get together to talk to you guys about this. As you know, we have the 1,500, we have the teacher mentor program that's on page, 18. But what we kind of found, and Amy might have to help me speak to this, but what we kind of found is there's this level of, it's not the full-blown, like, mentor program, but it's a level of support and the in-between that's been asked for. So a couple of certified staff have reached out to us, and it's been one that's had a teacher apprentice, and she's like, hey, so she was with me for 2 years, but now that she's integrating into her own classroom, when she has questions, she still asks me, but when she graduates out of the apprentice program, she's not receiving anything, but she's not certified yet, so she's not in that realm of, so kind of just as they integrate their first year of becoming certified, do we need to look at a different tier that's not the full-blown mentor program, but that's kind of an in-between where maybe they're just asking questions like how to run the copier, or where can I find this, or do you know the Wi-Fi password? That's not the full-blown, if I make sense.
Kind of like a buddy. And we kind of refer to them as friends before. You know, the mentoring includes all the coaching cycles and things like that that our instructional coaches take care of. This is more of that kind of go-to person that's right there, probably in your grade level, across the hall, that can support.
I just want to clarify something. So you're talking about, this is gonna be kind of a lower step, like it's not a full blown, hey, this is how you're going to set up your lesson plans, this is how you look at your curriculum before, you know, just kind of a support level, but they would be paid for the support level.
Yeah, and I don't want to pigeonhole us into saying that they couldn't go and ask that person about a lesson, but more than likely if they were with an instructional coach, they'd be doing all those coaching cycles and all what the mentorship really looks like. Yeah, but it would be maybe they're having a parent meeting. It's going to be a tough one. Maybe need somebody to talk that through. Just study. But yes, it would be paid at a lower tier than what a mentor would be paid, because there wouldn't be all of the extra things required of that person.
And I'm just trying to clarify some stuff. So how are you envisioning this? Are you envisioning people that have gone through this program? Are we talking about just being hired to do it? Having hired to do this? I mean, I'm just trying to clarify some stuff.
Oh, I wish that was it. You know, we hired their big ESP right for a couple of years.
It's been very short for that much interview stuff, so if we wanted to hold off on any
Maybe we just pose the question so we can ask him real quick. You were saying how do they view it, and you said they're in the ESP program as a new hire, so would the new hires also be getting like a buddy because it's different than a mentor as the mentoring cycle that you guys do? If that's just the
I
question.
think that's kind of maybe just where we need to explore, because you're right, if any of the new teachers, they would be in that ESP program, but it's kind of a unique thing in it, so if you have your teacher apprentices who have been with a certified teacher for so long, when they do become certified and then they get into their own classroom, they already have that relationship built with their guiding teacher, who would probably be the person they would go back to and ask them those questions. So it's not something where the financial is going to be huge. And maybe they only get asked 4 or 5 questions a semester, but just something to compensate them for their time. That way, they're not spending their time either discussing these things in PLC or going to the team lead who's not getting anything additional for that. Is kind of our thoughts.
Okay, thank you. We'll wait for, Dr. Springsteen to answer any more questions you have.
Yeah, I just trying to get more grip on what they were thinking.
Clarifications.
And then I think the only other thing that we had on that list that we didn't talk about yesterday was just talking about the contract damages. So ours.
Hold on, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
It was on there? Under, because I have compensation, amounts and hours of work.
I had it down there.
What's the third, under the other three?
Under housekeeping?
No, it should have been that.
I guess
I apologize, I was working off the wrong letter yesterday.
Maybe I'm still working on the wrong letter. I know I updated the couple things.
Under hours and amounts of work.
That's not all right. If you guys don't see it, then it's possible I'm just on the one letter there. I apologize. There was about 3 that I was updating, so. So it would have, if, on this one, it's under number 2, it's hours and amounts of work, and then it says, in addition to statutory topics, the board proposes the following changes or additions to the agreement, and then it talks about things for contract damages, but if it's not on there, then,
No, I'm sorry.
no, it's all right.
Just out of curiosity, what were you thinking?
Well, when it comes to that, when we review damages at other districts, ours are pretty low at this point. And so we were just wanting to have a conversation about what you guys would think about potentially increasing those damages for breaking contracts. Jamie's been attending a Thrive class through KASB, and many of the districts that are up there have talked about what theirs is, and ours is really low compared to that, so.
Yeah, sorry. But thanks for that information.
So were those the only items that we had talked about yesterday? Maybe this was scheduled, so I thought that again.
No, okay. We would like to tackle, I've lost my notes. Because they're still under my notebook. We would like to tackle the committee language for the safety, committee language, forming that, and the class size committee language, reforming that.
And then the thought was if we can kind of look at all of the permissive topics at one time, the ones that you wanted to discuss, and then those, and see where we can agree, if we can agree on stuff.
One of the conversations we had during caucus was, as opposed to having committees for very specific purposes, establish just a executive committee or something where it's administration and the executive team for ECNEA, and to discuss, those types of kind of permissive items, maybe quarterly, to address those concerns as they come up, as opposed to, brainstorm, try to problem solve and do that, so we're not waiting to once a year, when something's been festering since fall or something like that. So as opposed to kind of pigeonholing, now, of course, not saying that class size and safety and those sorts of things could not or would not be discussed, but just especially if we're talking language in the agreement, not making it so narrow that it limits people's ability to talk about other things. So, and I didn't mean to cut you off, that we were just thinking if there was any desire to broaden it out, maybe that would be the discussion.
broadening it out would be a good idea. The one thing we would like to kind of, we know on certain things, it's the board's prerogative. And we don't want to overstep the board, but, one of the goals we would like to have of this is to be able to make a recommendation to the board, and then the board makes the best decision based on that recommendation. And so ideally with that, what we'd like to have is if there is a committee or a couple of committees, and I like the open approach a little bit better because like you said, it could be more than just the one or two topics. And if that's like a standing committee, then, and they have the authority to make their recommendation to the board, then the board can take that information plus whatever research was done from that, and then make a decision on board policy based on that.
Could we have just a moment to talk this, because I have a question for my We're live again.
That was my job.
I'm sorry. I will stop taking over. That's a hard thing. I'm the boss. I'm bossy. So you guys are willing to talk about a general committee discussion of language, and so we can bring up items that have the standing authority to make recommendations to the board based on like permissive items or items that might not be part of bargaining at all. Is that correct?
Would it be, could we have, what do you think about 6 people, as the standing members, and then, others can be invited when mutually
That's fine.
agreed upon?
The only reason we brought up the extra is because there may be situations where we're talking about something that's going to impact them. And if it's going to impact them, it makes sense to include them.
Sure, yeah, and I think on those items, that would make sense, but I don't know. Sometimes I think you get too many people, and either they're disengaged because they're like, this doesn't really impact us, or then it's like, we get off track because, so I think it's obviously that those voices are necessary, having them at the table is important, but maybe just not have them as standing members.
Yeah, and that's fine. And we weren't necessarily married to the 6. It was just an arbitrary number to make sure that we had representation at all levels. And, the thought was 2 from each level, but it could be 1 from each level. I definitely like the idea of a proactive problem solving approach.
Yes, quarterly would be good. Because and would we say quarterly, unless not necessary? Like, because sometimes there's certain walls of the time of the year where, we really don't have anything going on. Or it could be, there's just so much other things going on that talking about that is not a priority at this moment. With the flexibility to cancel as needed, I guess is what I'm saying.
Then the next question would be, how do you want to define quarterly? Are you thinking quarterly on an annual or quarterly on a semester, twice a semester?
I guess I usually would be more than 90 weeks on the semester. So twice a semester, is that a better way of saying it?
Yes.
Unless you guys want to come and meet us in the summer.
We're trying to avoid being here on the summer more than we have to.
Which is exactly why I asked that question. If we're volunteering people for more things during the summer, it might be our heads on spike.
We wanted to circle back up to just on the chancellors. So I know longest standing member over here, kind of have some more institutional knowledge on that piece, Clayton, if you kind of want to.
Okay, so I think we figured out where the 8% comes from. So if you look on page 18, at the top of the chart, it says calculated based on salary schedule amounts. We would think that means how athletic coaches and sponsors used to be paid. Well, if you scroll back a few pages, everybody's paid a dollar amount to coach a sport or lead an activity. It used to be a percentage of the special salary amount. So the special salary amount used to be $36,700, and then there was charts. So the football coach got 24% of that special salary number, And around 2021, 2022, it was agreed to move away from those percentages, get rid of that special salary, which probably used to be a PS0 amount, but it just stayed at 36.7. And then, so get away from percentages and just go to straight dollar amounts for coaching and sponsoring activities. So I think those got changed into dollar amounts, but then the counselor chart got left at percentages of an amount that used to be in the agreement that's no longer in the agreement. So I think that's where 8% comes from. 8% of 36,000. That was always a point of contention in negotiations, was money was being put on the schedule and the special salary amount was being left behind. And it was passed from everyone decided, well, we should do a 5% raise for both amounts, and it just never got addressed. It never got raised, and then they got deleted. And so it was,
Yeah, the fact that change was made between the 21-22 school year and the 22-23 school year.
Yeah, that's what I.
She's got it up right now.
But then that guidance, mentoring, special salary remained as is from the 21-22 to the 22-23 school.
Right, and so with the removal of the language that said it was at that 36,000 or whatever, now it's at their base pay.
Right.
Okay, so, and was something we talked about when we were in the other room, that I was not previously aware of. And you had said that some of the counselors were asking to have an increase in their pay, and if you're asking for an increase or a decrease in days, and then we were to make this change, that could be kind of risky from a HR perspective.
So, okay, so you are saying that they would like their number of days decreased?
Some of them have I got some responses, not on the survey, just some personal responses sent to RDC and Handy from somebody saying as a counselor, they have concerns about the number of days and whether they have some levels need those days, other levels don't, and but others were concerned about the cost of the pay that they have.
Would you clarification for pay for the extra days or just in general?
The pay rate.
And the concern that I discussed with them is there's kind of the semantic piece on it, where if I'm getting $16,000 to do 10 days worth of work, then I'm just throwing weird numbers out. But, and then that becomes the same $16,000 for work for days worth of work. That's an effective pay cut because I'm getting more work for the same amount of money. While on the physical paycheck, it's going to show the same $16,000, but I'm doing more work for the same amount. People will probably view that as a pay cut. And then she said that, like you're asking for a pay increase or a decrease in time. And I worry about that backfire.
So I think when we look at the librarian pay and they also have those extra days, but they're paid at the daily rate instead of that increased percentage. So just trying to put some consistency out there for how things are currently being done.
Yeah, and I'm not opposed to consistency, I don't know about the backlash for that, whether or not it would be there or how big it would be.
And I think one of the reasons that this was brought up was this year, at the beginning of the school year, or actually last summer, so I'm just using my references, last summer, there were additional days that were used because of additional training. And so, there was a lot of we found that there was a lot of inconsistency on how that was being paid. So we wanted to make sure that there was at least some language to move forward with in the future to make sure that, you know, the next people that have to deal with it are able to consistently address that.
Yeah, and one of the things when we noticed that on your counselor, on your notice letter, I was thinking, well, the counselors are already getting a percentage more than the librarians and the instructional coaches. We would prefer to have everybody brought to the same level, but not lower the counselors' pay, raise the pay for the days of our librarians and our instructional coaches, instead of the opposite.
If at all possible, we want to avoid a situation where we're doing any harm. And that's my big concern here, is people would view that as they are financially harmed. But if we can come up with a solution where it's not financially harming somebody, find a way to make it work. And don't want to be in a situation where people are like, hey, this hurts me on my paycheck, or this hurts me on my personal time.
And you might not know, but has there ever been anything that's come forward about suggestions on what it would look like if it was tiered at different levels?
No, we haven't investigated that, because I know we tackled like some of the supplemental last year, and we knew that was not really a focus at this point for people. And yeah, it changed from the 2021-22 negotiated agreement to the 22-23 negotiated agreement. That's when that wording was struck out, and the supplemental salary was changed to what we currently have without percentage. I think we'll discuss that, but if we want to keep talking, I don't know that that's enough coffee, unless you guys want to wrap this up before we move on.
I'm open to moving on, because I don't know that, I don't know that we get much accomplished any progress right now on that. I think the big point is, we want to avoid doing harm, and if we can find a, solution that doesn't do that, and whether that's moving away from the percentage and going to a whole dollar amount or something, we're open to any reasonable compromise that's not going to do harm.
We'll discuss that a little bit more, but I don't know that we can talk specifically for that right now.
Could we go ahead and talk about the retirement benefit language changes that we would like to see? It's Article 21, page 70 in the negotiated agreement. Which I should look like. Nope, that's not page 70, sorry. I wrote 70 for some reason. It is page 65. I think maybe I was a little sleepy last night. And it's also included in our leave documentation, documents under Article 17, page 46.
Oh, on the, with the retirement. I know.
Okay.
With the retirement thing, you talked about the idea of potentially removing the retirement policy, or
That's not
the
the
early
same.
retirement.
No, that's not the same that I'm
Oh.
talking about.
Well, okay.
I'm sorry.
I'll circle back to that.
No, we're talking about, we're gonna start with page 65. And then, talking about the compensation to those who are retiring employees.
I thought we were working on the permissive topics.
Oh, yes, never mind, sorry, Mike's right.
Yeah, sorry, we kind of have two different pages there. But with the, kind of the permissive part, as far as the early retirement incentive, you said that you're not actively using it, you haven't actively used it in a while, correct?
So,
Kind of being a little creative with that, I was thinking that, we do have a risk as the legislature of things getting ugly potentially in the next, 2 to 3 years where districts are having to start to look at, reduction in force. And so rather than eliminate that policy altogether, potentially move it to the RIF policy as a, as kind of a paid